And I know you do have some political experience. You served on the city commission
Yeah,
at least once before. Tell
I
me.
was there for 8 years.
Okay, so that's four terms, is that?
That's 2 terms.
Two terms.
The
Two
commission,
4-year terms.
yeah, the commission's 4 years. The mayor is a 2-year term.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And yeah, I came on with trying to figure out what to do with the electric city power
Oh, okay.
deal, and we were able to work through that and finally get separated from them.
Okay. Do you have military experience?
No,
No?
I've never been in the military.
Okay. And talk about your current job and your employment history.
Well, I have done quite a few things. I spent about 20 years putting up farm buildings, machine sheds, shops, some houses, you name it, in that kind of construction. So, you know, I can run some equipment, I can drive some nails, and I can finish some concrete, and you name it. I've built a little bit of furniture over the years. Haven't done that for a lot of years. I'd like to get back to doing it. And I do some mechanical work on vehicles and tractors. I have my antique truck out there, the old GMC that I play with, and I have several tractors, Massey Harris tractors that they're my toys also, so I had to tear them apart and redo them and get them all running. And so we do that kind of stuff, and now I'm working on a 1940 Chevrolet sedan. It's supposed to be a father-daughter program, but the daughter unfortunately her husband had to go down to Alabama for a year in the military. He's in the guards. And so I'm kind of working on it alone.
But you also have the auction service, right?
Oh yeah, the auction service, we've been doing that since 1985. I've almost forgot about that. Yeah, I think I've done a few of those. Yeah, we've done hundreds and hundreds of auctions here in Great Falls and around Montana in general. But yeah, we've been doing that since 1985. We've done a lot of, we had some farm and ranch type sales. We've had estate sales. We've had business liquidations. Pretty much anything and everything. I even worked a few years when we first came here with House of Meats when they were starting out with the game processing back in the day. I cut deer up and stuff for about a couple of seasons.
Okay.
So.
Well, as far as this election, tell me why you're running for mayor.
Well, first is Mayor Kelly's been there for a number of terms, and most of them's been unopposed, and I just think most of the candidates, as far as I'm concerned, need to be opposed. It just gives people a choice, and I think that's important. And the other thing is I really enjoyed working for the people of Great Falls when I was on the commission. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Everybody thinks that's just terrible duty, but all in all, it's pretty enjoyable. And I pulled out of the race 4 years ago because my wife breathing problems, and we went south for a couple of winters, like her doctor told us we needed to do, and then she got bored down there and said, okay, with some new medication, she says, we're not going back down there again. So she said, well, you enjoyed that so much before, why don't you go back on the commission? And I seen there was so many people already vying for the commission seats that I thought, I just think I'll run for mayor. I think I'd enjoy that too.
Okay, great. So tell me why people should vote for Fred Burow.
Well, like I say, I do have some experience. We've went through a lot of things actually in the 8 years that I was there. We had a lot of turmoil, and we made a lot of positive, as far as I'm concerned, changes in Great Falls. And so I've got that with me. I've got, I've been in business for many, many years, and so I have some good business background with me. Like we talk about people, if you've never signed the front of a check for someone's paycheck, you don't understand all the sides. I've been on employee and employer side. I've actually here in Great Falls, I worked for about 12 years out at Great Falls Transit, driving bus, and actually I worked for Donnie Hall a couple of years driving school bus. So that's when people tell me there's no work around. I came here in '85 expecting maybe to do a few more years of construction work, and then move into the auction business full time. And in 1985, there was very little construction going on in Great Falls. You couldn't buy a job in that kind of business, so I picked up jobs whatever I could get, from selling vacuum cleaners to cutting deer and driving school bus. So I've always been able to find work. I could keep telling people, if they're interested in work, they can find it. And if they're out working, their chances of finding a better job and moving forward is much better than sitting home on the couch.
Okay. Fred, as you're out and about meeting people, old friends, and making new friends, I guess, on the campaign trail. And
oh, absolutely.
Dropping off signs and literature and stuff like that. What's on their mind? What are the issues that they tell you about?
Well, I have a lot of people complaining about our permitting process. I think we need to do some more work. I know when we was there before, we did some work on that. We did a lot of work on the sign code, and got that where it didn't cause a real financial burden to businesses. That was coming on pretty heavy at the time, so we made a lot of changes there so people could continue using their signs until they change them. And when they have to replace them, then they can bring them into a different code. But a lot of these businesses looking, $20,000, $30,000 on signage, and just to say, hey, you need to change that because it's not in our current code. It was very much in code whenever they put it up. So, that was a big change for a lot of businesses, and so I was glad we was able to change that and make some common sense ideas there. So that's what I feel I bring to the commission is a lot of common sense.
Okay. As you look at the growth, the development in Great Falls, how do you think it's going, and how can it be improved, if you think it needs to be improved?
Well, I think the permitting process and the inspection process and things like that we have, I think we just need to go back and take a look at it and see what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're doing it. I've got a big question is when we have businesses here and they want to expand and they're able to come up with money to do an expansion and maybe add on some more employees or whatever, and their business is growing, but it's not growing enough that they can remodel every ounce of the business they currently have, but they've come up with enough money that they can move forward and maybe add a piece on it or whatever. And then we go back and say, okay, now that you want to add that, but you got to go back through this whole building and landscaping and everything and bring it up to what the current code says. And I'm not sure that has to be done. I'm going to check on it, because I think the more we do for the businesses that we have to help them retain and grow here is probably way better than worrying about trying to draft new businesses to come in. And the city doesn't have a lot of things that we can offer as far as incentives, other than it's a great place to live. Great Falls is a wonderful town. The schools are wonderful. The trails, the park system, everything like that. We have a lot of amenities for people to come here and for businesses to come here. If their people are outdoor oriented, the hunting, the fishing opportunities Montana offers, the beauty of the state. And like I said, Great Falls has quite a lot to offer too, with different museums. We have the trail system that just keeps growing and growing. We have 56 parks, I think, in this town. And so I think there's a lot of things that way, but when I say we don't have a lot of things to entice them here, we can't change the taxing code to say, hey, that's going to be better. We can't take a bucket full of money. A lot of times you'll see cities go out and they have a lot of cash. In other words, we'll give you hundreds of thousands of dollars to locate a business here, and certain corporations, they want. And we don't have that kind of financing that we could do that. Like I say, what we have to offer is a way of life.
Okay. Fred, I wanted to get your thoughts on crime in Great Falls, and there's a crime task force that's been implemented here recently. Do you think that's needed, and how do you think can it be improved upon, and just crime in general in Great Falls, is that an issue that you're hearing about?
Oh, that's a terrible issue. We have more crime than we know what to do with. I think they don't want to put them in jail because we're overcrowded and the cost of it. But I was so happy when Commissioner Tryon organized that crime task force and see if there is some things that we can do. But it's not as much the police. Having extra police on the street and what have you is always a goal. I know we dealt with that when I was there for 8 years. We dealt with fire and police because that's your number one thing in the city is public safety. That has to be just the top of the list. And we have, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I think most of the community, we do have a great police force. We have a wonderful fire department that, the fires have gone down in the city. They don't have as many fires to fight, but they're out there all the time protecting us. The police are out there, and from what I've been robbed and what have you around here, we've had some theft. The officers are out and do a great job of rounding them up. They pretty much know where to go look for a lot of these guys because they're frequent flyers, as we call them. They're constantly being picked up, and it falls down somewhere beyond that. I mean, if we can add more officers on the street, I'm all for it. If we can come up with the money, and I think we can with some, and get some more officers out on the street and patrol officers. But the big issue is when it goes to the court system and the county attorney, if it's a felony and they pick it up, it falls down there that, well, we give them a plea bargain and they get another suspended sentence on top of the last 8 or 10 that they have that didn't do any good anyhow. And that's the thing that upsets me is the accountability. We don't hold people accountable. I sometimes say in joking, I know we can't do it, but a chain gang probably wasn't all that bad to have. We could. Our military has to sleep in tents, but can't we take them out here and put them on a workforce somewhere? Give them two things here: job training and holding them accountable for their crimes that maybe pay something back to society. But I know you can't do those things anymore, but we got to come up with some way to do it.
Okay. As you look at the current city commission, what have they done that you would say is positive? What good things have you seen?
Honestly, I have not followed a lot of what our city commission is doing. I know they've done some positive things. There's no doubt. Okay. They've done some negative things as far as I'm concerned, and that's part of why I'm running it. Back it was 4 years ago when we had M&D Construction apply for a use permit. I'm lost my train of thought there. Sorry, but the temporary use permit or whatever we call it, that they could use a lot that was next to them between two businesses, and it was apparently zoned residential, and they wanted to move over and park their equipment, and the city wouldn't. The commission and the mayor voted it down, and they are usually giving conditional use permits, which didn't make sense on that. So we push a business with, I think if the paper was right, we was in Arizona at the time, but I picked it up in the Tribune, and that here's a company with 35 employees, full-time employees, and we're pushing them out of Great Falls. They need to expand. Now the place they've moved to, there's no question it was a better move for them, maybe a better fit. They have a shop and what have you out there, some buildings that they didn't have before, but that should have been their choice rather than the city fathers saying, nah, we don't think we'll give you a conditional use permit to use that vacant lot. And it's backed up against the railroad tracks. It would be a wonderful use for it. That really irritated me quite a lot. And I've met some of the M&D guys since, because they did a lot of this excavation work next door. And but before that, I'd never met them, so it wasn't a personal thing. It was just that I thought, we fight to try to get businesses up and running and going, and the city and the people at the city level or at all government levels should be working to help them sustain.
Okay. Anything else, Fred, that you can add?
No, like I say, I enjoy doing that kind of work and working with people. I field a lot of questions. Sometimes I'm a little long-winded when you talk with me, but anyhow, I do field a lot of questions. Back in the day when I was on the commission, we got many complaints about this or that, and phone calls, anywhere from dogs running loose problems to the ditch doesn't drain anymore, the sewer line over here isn't working right, or whatever. And I've always followed up on them, and actually I think everything that they've called me about, we've pretty well got resolved over the years. And so I do listen to the people. It's not something that I nod my head and yeah, we'll look into it. And if I can't look into it, I tell them that. There are certain things out there that you're not going to change. It just isn't going to happen. Maybe the law will override what you think should be done, and I tell them that.